Heavy D shined his light on my next guest, making her one of the hottest R&B divas to make hits from the 90s that have stood the test of time. I mean, come on. Grammy-nominated singer Monifah, welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb.
Thank you, Erica. I'm glad to be here, my love. Great
I
to
am
be here.
so excited to have you. It is an
Thank you.
absolute honor. So, yes. So, for those of you who might have caught Monifah on Ayanla, let's talk about this because this was very heavy. And when anytime someone is on Ayanla, it is heavy, and that's a soul bearing thing. So,
Yeah.
how did working with Ayanla impact your relationship with your daughter?
Well, we had already started doing some healing, right? And from her connection to me, growing up with me as a parent who was emotionally unavailable and physically gone, right? So once I got sober, because I was using for about 10 years and just kind of, and I drank, a lot. And in her formative years, I was, always out and just running for myself. And once I gotten sober in 2010, and started to do my work, my healing work, um, we was, I mean, that's my daughter. Like she was living with me. She had taken a break from school. Um, there were a lot of dynamics. And growing up, I had value in the valley. I knew Ayanna since I was 18 years old, and had started reading her books around then. Was very big on self-help. If I wasn't in the music business, and I think I have a natural God-given uh interest and gift to kind of see things objectively in the psychological space. Like that intrigues me, the mind, behavior, and stuff like that. So I probably would have been a psychologist. I know that that's what I would have gone to school for had I gone that route. So so I was always interested in self-help and all of that stuff. So I knew Iyanla. So when the production called and they said, hey, you got anything going on? Da, 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 well, I said, well, I'm doing my work and walking. And I know Kimmy was, at this point married with 2 children already. I know that she had things that she could benefit from. So I asked her if she wanted to go on. And initially it was supposed to be 3 generations, my mom, me, and her, to kind of tell the story. I think that they made it just us. They decided not to use my mom. I think for a couple of reasons. I don't know if it was maybe because she was forgetting a little bit at that point, but also just probably they might have seen her not unwilling to actually relax that muscle and be able to be open enough to have any kind of breakthrough or whatever. Um, so they decided to go with just us. And Kimmy said yes. And I said, awesome. I was like, this is your opportunity. Like, I said, I trust Iyanla. She was like, I like her too. Like, I like what she stands for, how she works. I believe in it. And I said, well, great. I think we should do it. And so we did. I just think it was the natural next step, especially with us already doing our own, just moving through life with each other after sharing what we shared on R&B Divas. And we did that intentionally, shared that. That was something that was intentional between Therese, Akemi, and myself. And we decided to share that because people need to see that they're not alone. And we wanted to show a loving way of accepting one another and dealing with that truth, and that I don't necessarily call it I just call it a difference of, a difference of how we see our existence going and how we're managing that going forward. So when we did Ayanla, I was so open and so ready. And it wasn't about me. For me, it was about a Kimmy. I knew I was gonna get something out of it. I didn't know what, but I wanted to give her an opportunity. I wanted her to take the opportunity to say the things she needed to say, put some pieces together if she could, you know what I mean? And I was ready, and I told her, I said, this is about you. Whatever you need, you do. This is about you. You don't got to worry about anything else. You know, I'm not that. I don't care about what people think. I'm not. We're not. We're here for the healing. We're here for the tools to get us on the road to continued healing.
Um,
So I said, that's where I'm at. And she was like, okay. And we went forth.
you both were so like I mean you really bared it all. Was there a particular there were so many themes that traumatic themes that
Mhm.
really must have resonated with so much of the audience because everyone has been touched by issues such as abortion or some form of parental alienation or
Mhm.
finding out that or like having the conversations about what to do with teen pregnancy. All of these things
Right. Yes.
are things that these are common themes within
Right.
a lot of families. So was
Right.
there something in particular that you shared that you didn't anticipate sharing, and what did you feel like after you purged?
You know, no, there wasn't anything that I wasn't particularly like about. I said, look, this is, I mean, we like you said, we've all been through stuff. So I was, I don't have any shame about what I've gone through. That doesn't serve me or anyone else for that matter, and it definitely doesn't serve me because that just makes me hurt myself and not value myself. So I thankfully I have had that lesson. I understood that, and I never really cared about what people thought. But it was for the wrong reasons in the wrong way, and I was turning it in on myself. So I was hurting myself with that frame of mind. It wasn't in the way that was going to be fruitful for me and healthy. So I never really cared about what people thought. So I was gonna be transparent and I was gonna share. But what I did get take away, right, was I when I was saying that I was gonna abort Kimmy and that I didn't want a baby. Like when she broke it down for me, it was like it's not personal. It's not that you didn't want a Kimmy. You weren't you didn't want a baby.
Yeah.
You didn't want a child. You weren't ready and you didn't want she wasn't a Kimmy. Like it's not that you didn't want her. And it was like a light bulb when the guilt that I didn't even know was there. I didn't even know. And when she said that it rocked me. And it took it that was like a dam that broke open for me. And I think it put a Kimmy's frame of mind, like it gave her another perspective as well, like to help her with her anger maybe and her, the stuff that she has to grapple with, and is healing. The abandonment, the emotional abandonment, and feeling alone even when I'm there. So that rocked me, and that was the gem that I came away with personally
Well, and that
outside of seeing my daughter being able to kind of release some of that stuff and to really see in real time the money, like what you pour in, what I poured in versus what my mother poured into me with the money. And I ended up with like all this money, and Kimmy didn't have like had like maybe 20 pieces of paper and bills in her hand. It was crazy. That was like, wow.
and I just want to add context to my audience who may not have seen you on
Mhm,
Ayanla that and
mhm.
I don't want to overstep, so I'm just going to
It's
fill in
okay.
some blanks because
It's okay.
so
Yeah.
your when you were pregnant with Akimi,
Yeah.
you had been assaulted.
No, no. I had experienced sexual violence and sexual assault before Akemi. She wasn't the product of it.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no, no. She wasn't the product of it. But these are the things that came with me when
Mhm.
I found I was pregnant. I was I was with her dad when the assault happened, and so there was a lot of guilt about that. What happens with rape victims when you take on. It was my fault. Like I shouldn't have been here. I shouldn't have did all of those things. So I came with that trauma,
Yeah.
right? And then, 2 years later, I find out that I'm pregnant. Her dad and I are not really together anymore, but he was a stand-up guy. This is one of my great friends. We're still really good friends. And I came with that stuff. So she wasn't a product of the rape, thankfully.
Right.
Um, and that's, yeah, it was just that I came with all of that.
And
That's what.
I think that is important. One, I want to backtrack a little bit too, because you
Sure.
talked about how you were carrying shame at a certain,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Sure.
you were very transparent about things because you weren't feeling that shame anymore. And for my comeback community, we allude to this and I've talked about it with other guests, but I always say when I'm able to be transparent with my testimony, it's because it doesn't have me anymore. And
Correct.
so when you're saying that, that resonates so much with me because I mean, when you're talking about themes such as sexual assault or sexual violence, that was something that it care because we as survivors have that in us in a cellular level. So
Exactly.
when we're purging or we are surviving and thriving after
Hmm.
a an incident or a sexually violent scenario,
Yeah.
the fact that we're able to tell our stories is saying that we have taken control of our narratives. We've taken control of how we are going to proceed forward. So I just
Okay.
want my comeback community to kind of take a beat and think about that because
Yeah.
as you are maneuvering through like terrible tragedies, and we all have experienced things in your life,
Yes.
it's important to understand, you know, when people say, when is it time to share my story? For some people and some stories, that day may never come. But the hope
Right. And
is
that's okay.
exactly that you get to a place of healing. And when you get to a place of healing and you're able to share those stories without it having you, then I think
Exactly.
that's a great, it's just a great barometer for, you know, you're moving forward. Not
For
maybe
sure.
maybe not completely healed, but you're in the process of, and that's a beautiful thing.
Right. And I just want to throw this out there for any women and men that have been violated, assaulted violently, however, it violated, period. I don't care. Um, there's a modality called EMDR, which that's what I chose to do.
Yes.
And it helped me with my death trauma, my trauma from bereavement, and loss, and my assault, which was pretty freaking violent. Like it was just not okay. And so I looked up. Yeah, I came up. I forgot how I came across it, but thank the creator that I did. And I that's what I searched for when I searched for my therapist because I knew that I needed to process the
Yeah.
traumas. That's what it is. It's like our body holds on to things, and our body doesn't process the trauma. We need help to process it, to release it, so it doesn't play over and over and manifest in our daily lives. Because
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen. We're living in that constant wheel of the trauma, whether we realize it or not. So
Yeah.
our reactions to things, our perception, our how we all of it is affected. And so I would really, really you know, uh that is what helped me. And if you can get somewhere or to someone that does that, a psychologist that does that modality, that is an amazing modality. Just look it up. There's so much information about it on YouTube. And also to be very clear about your diagnosis, because we have where people deal once you've um, gone through certain trauma, as if you've been holding on, it's been a long time, you can develop certain psychological uh, mental health disorders, or little things like bipolar disorder. Those things can come up. They're not always hereditary. They
Yeah.
are situational. So knowing where you are there. So also having a psychiatrist being able to diagnose with your psychologist to see if you have anything, because they usually have to do this in tandem. together after a certain point. So just there's a way, so you're clear, to make sure you don't have anything else that needs to be dealt with, anything that is chemically been affected in your processing,
Right.
or in your your emotional processing. So that, I just want to share that. I just had
I
to.
appreciate this. It's such an effective tool. It's listen, we talk about mental health on this podcast all the time because without it, we're all in a lot of trouble. So I
Yeah,
appreciate you sharing that and the effectiveness, because it is a very effective tool. In terms of therapy, I always, talk about different places that you can get therapy on a sliding scale, therapy
right.
that is available if you don't have the resources, because we want everyone to be mentally well, and our health, especially our mental health, is everything. So I
It is.
appreciate you sharing what
Thank
worked
you.
for you.
We're
And
living in a time, and everybody, it's not just if you've been in, we're living and again, surviving. I'd much rather, I think that word is more appropriate. We're surviving, and living is an intention now. Like, you have to really, you know, cut off survival and remember to live, like actually live, right? So we're living in a time that's so violent, so much going on. We have so much information coming to us at once because of the advancements of technology. And it's way more than I think that the human body is actually capable of, processing. And so that's why we have to really be mindful. The more advanced things get, the more information that we're privy to, the more things that we're seeing. We have to protect. We have to learn how to shut it off. We have to protect that. We have to protect it because it's a lot. It's a lot.
mm,
That's why. Like, advancements are great, but what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I'm in menopause, and we have to adapt there in how we take care of ourselves in the emotional and mental space.
I and thank you for that. Comeback Kids, you're listening to Comeback with Erica Cobb. I'm speaking with Grammy nominated singer Monifah. Girl, I have to get into the industry because you've
Sure.
been acting and singing professionally since the age of 7, and you didn't necessarily grow up in a neighborhood or an area where it was like, oh, it's all these child stars and this is what we do. So how did
Right.
you first break into the industry?
Second grade, my second grade teacher and my first manager, Michelle Donay. I love you so much. Shout out to Michelle Donay. She lives out in West Palm Beach now, and I gotta go see you. I'm coming soon. She was my second grade teacher and ended up being my confidant, my auntie. We were very close. She's a Native American and Jewish woman, and she was, my same age as my mom, really cool. And we were doing a class production because she's a creative. She was a photographer, so she had a creative spirit as well, and loved teaching, loved her kids. And she found out I could sing because I auditioned to sing in the class production. Okay, I want to sing, and she was blown away. And she asked me if I would be interested in doing commercials. She said, I would love to talk to your mom. And so she talked to my mom. My mother said, as long as you keep your grades up and you focus on school and that is secondary and you do what you have to do, absolutely. So she was like, I have a friend that has an agency, that's an agent at an agency. I would love to take some pictures of her. She took my headshots in the courtyard of my elementary school during lunch, and she turned them in. We got name Monifah Carter or whatever, my headshots, and I started auditioning, and I was a professional. I landed my first commercial. I was 9 years old,
Nice.
and the day I did my first national Sassoon commercial, it was a Jenny doll. I don't know if you remember. They had a doll, a Jenny doll. Sassoon had a Jenny doll. It was the commercial for the new Jenny doll, and that day was the day that my father died.
Oh my gosh.
That is the day that I learned that life is a series of polarity. Like, the balance of life, the polarity. There's no, and I'll never forget what she told me when I spoke the first time I spoke to Michelle, after she found out that my dad had passed.
Mm.
Because we found out, because of course the day of no cell phones,
Mm.
we went to Brooklyn to my grandma's house because we were right really in lower Manhattan, which is like, it was like maybe 3 stops away to my grandma's house. So we jumped on the train, my mom and I was so excited. We wanted to tell, my grandma and my uncle and about the day. And we get there, and I remember my grandma had a cold sore, and she just I was like, oh my God, she took my mother to the bathroom, and I heard my mother yelling, "No, Ma!" And I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with Nanny? My mother comes out, she's a wreck. She takes me in the bathroom. My grandmother's blue bathroom in her brownstone. It was like in the kitchen, right off the kitchen. And I just remember my mother sitting me on the toilet and telling me in a very, soft way, the best way she could, that my dad had passed. And I just, I was like, I don't even know. It was the craziest thing. So Michelle Donay told me, I learned some life. She said, life is a series of highs and lows. She said, I know you may not, I'm trying to say it to you the way you can understand it, but life is a series of highs and lows, and you never get one without the other, ever.
Wow.
That stuck with me. I was 9 when she told me that. That stuck with me though.
Wow.
Maybe not also in the best way, because I always was waiting for the other shoe to drop
I was
anytime something was happening.
just
But
thinking that. I was just thinking, how does a 9-year-old
process.
process that when now you have had the ultimate high and low?
Okay.
So are you always waiting for the other shoe to drop? Because
I was.
most of us do.
I
Most of
was.
us do. Anytime there's something good. I mean, I am so guilty of it myself.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this happened. This is like the best thing ever. And I'm like looking around the corner, like, oh Lord, like calling
Right. No,
people,
for real. It's
making
a real
sure.
thing.
And we
Yeah.
have to, but it's also about the presence and being present in the moment, because every moment is a gift. And
It is.
I'm gonna kind of segue into this idea too, because you were in a girl group when you're so before your solo career took off, you were in a girl
Yes.
group.
Yes.
How did you go from becoming or from that to becoming a solo artist? And I'm saying that in the way that I think of the success of so many people who have been in groups and then they have
Mhm.
success as a solo artist, and people like to like make it a hierarchy, but I think it's two different experiences and you can be
Completely.
successful at both. So what were your experiences?
Okay, so this is what happened. Wendy Credo, she was an A&R at MCA. I had a manager, Willie Kitchen, very, I don't even know where he's at. I wonder where Willie Kitchen is. Anyway, shout out to Willie Kitchen. He introduced me to her. He was like, somebody's looking for a member of her group. And I went and auditioned, met her. She was like, you're in, love you, got it. So now I'm in a group with 4 other, excuse me, could be solo artists. Okay. So it was a group of talented, and everybody in their own right. Everybody could sing, everybody could hold it could have been cute. So to me, we were all solo artists, right? I was in a group with Free. That's how Free and I became really tight,
Mhm.
right? So it was Free and 4 other wonderful, was it 4? No, it was 3. Free and 3 other amazing women: Cherise, Lou Allen, Cynthia, I forgot Cynthia's last name, and Samantha. I can't remember their last names, but Cynthia, Samantha, and Cherise. Cherise became my first manager in the industry. So she walked through my first album with me. And we walked through that first album together. So Free and I are like sisters to this day. And you see where she ended up, right? She went on to do her thing, is a household name in this, in for our generation in this game. Talented writer, talented lyricist. She was with, before she got with us, she was in Mark. She was part of Mark and the Funky Bunch. She was part of the Funky Bunch. So we were already all kind of dipped in our stuff. Cynthia has a master's in vocal music. You know what I mean? So like we weren't playing any games, and and I incidentally met Hev out in the business part, because I knew Hev outside of the business, but as far as professionally, he did our production deal. He did the music when we got the production deal. So he was the one that did our first recordings.
Okay, so you just referenced Hev. For my
Yeah, Heavy
listeners, we're
D.
referring to Heavy D,
Yeah,
who we unfortunately lost in 2011, and we all miss him. So, what do
he came
you
from just
miss
about.
most about him?
You said, what do I miss?
Most about him?
Um, I wish I could have appreciated his protection more. Like he was a great mentor. He was like at any given day he could be anything. So I could get brother, dad, boyfriend, husband vibes, right? So it was very protective, but he also shared, he was such a consummate professional. He was amazing at what he did. He was super talented and had done so much in the business and successfully. And he knew his stuff, and he saw something in me and he was obedient to that. I'll forever be grateful. I miss the fact that we didn't get to do, we had talked too. We had spoken because we had some stuff going. He got in his feelings a little bit. He was a Gemini. And when I wanted to work with other producers, I wanted him to do half of that second album. And then I wanted to work with other, and he just thought that was being disloyal. And he just kind of, he took everything back. And it wasn't good. Um, it wasn't like we fought, it was what he did. And he just kind of stepped back away from me. And again, I felt left and I felt abandoned. And so that was like a through line in my life, with people dying on me that were very, very close to my family, my dad, my brother, my aunt. I had already experienced that stuff, and I was just like, oh, it just felt like, again, I was like, you know what, screw you, and I just kept it pushing. We we always had love for each other, and it was never harshness. I don't think we talked until we talked. And then we decided that we planned to get together to do it again, like to do this again. And I turn around and he's gone, so I
I
mean,
no,
I,
I'm so sorry. Like, I'm sorry for your loss, and I know that it's been 12 years almost,
yeah.
but losses like that stay with us. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to get you.
No, it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. I didn't even, I'm not, I'm like, oh my God. And my friend is like, here,
yeah.
like,
I
girl, what is wrong? Oh my God.
Because it stays with us.
It
I'm
just,
curious to know what year was it that you were working on your project that you wanted to split the production responsibilities and credits with.
it was the second album.
So and what
I executive produced that second album.
okay. So what year was that?
That was 1998. Like it was the end of 97,
Right.
going into 98. Because I went right back into the studio. I had moved out to LA and started recording beginning the recording of my second album because he was living here. I
Yeah.
came out here. I moved out here. I was in love and I came out here. And I and I started working on my album, and we did about 6 songs, and one of which was Summer Rain. And this is just to go to show you how, like, Summer Rain was supposed to be on my second project. Like the way Carl sings that record, and I mean, like, as far as um key, I sang the same key, everything. Like that song, I love that song, but it wasn't mine. That wasn't for me, right? Like, could you imagine anybody singing Summer Rain but Carl Thomas? Like,
I
I'm
listen.
still looking for that demo.
Okay. I uh, that song was a part of like that was my one of my coming of age songs, and
Yeah.
I can't imagine based on coming of age song, but I am really wanting to hear because I'm like, well,
Snowing outside, rainy, keeps me warm. Quiet conversation makes me home. So warm, sweet rain, my rain. It was I kept it there because I wanted to show, like, yeah, I'm looking for that demo right now. I've been asking everybody. I don't know. wear that. I'm so mad because I don't have it.
Monifah. Oh, my whole life was just made. Okay. My
I had to
whole
do it
life
because
was just made. Okay. Monifah Summer Rain. I need that. You find the original EP. You have
I
to
could
release.
redo it. I
You
could redo it. I mean,
have to.
Paul ain't gonna care. Like he's still gonna, what's the face wrote it? DJ Rogers wrote that record, if I'm not mistaken. DJ Rogers
You
Jr.
have
Huh?
to. You
Yeah.
have to. And I will be front row for an unplugged. Okay.
So there's like cool things that people don't know, like that are great, like fun facts, like so that's a fun fact. I think because I think that when I heard it, when I heard the record and it was him, I was like, and we had known each other in New York on the open mic circuit, like he was, singing in New York, came from Chicago and was doing his thing. So I knew him way before he got signed. Um, and so I was happy and I was like, he killed that shit. Like I loved it. I was like, that was his record. That was for him.
Uh,
You know,
let's
that's
talk
how the
about
world was supposed to
another
know him.
icon legend because I also hear that Janet Jackson is a
Yes.
fan of one of your biggest hits, Touch It. So it's
Yes.
been 25 years since you released that song. How does that make you feel?
It's Janet Jackson, who I mean, I think I am. I think we're cousins. I mean, what do you think? I'm giving my penny
I
vibes
can
right now. I'm
so
giving my penny energy right here, dude. But no, that was crazy. The first time she told me that she liked it, we were in Cheetah Club, and my friend introduced me to her, Stephanie Gale. Shout out, that's Stephanie Gale. She was in the business. She worked for I forgot. But one of the big record labels, and they were downstairs, and she was like, "Have you met Janet?" I was like, "No." She was like, "Come on, let me introduce you." I'm like, "Oh my god!" So I had my hair in this ponytail. I was looking really, really cute. And
of
I go
course.
down there, and it was her birthday. It was Jay's birthday. So she was down there with her dancers. Missy was down there. It was like a whole, but I didn't know Missy yet. I had met her before, but I didn't know her like that. We got cool after, but I'm real laid back when it comes to that. Like I'm not, if I don't really know you, I'm just not, oh, I'm Monifah. I don't do it. I'm just weird. I'm an island, right? So she takes me over. She's like, sit right here. And I'm like, I'm not just sitting on top of her, basically. There's like this much space. And she was like, no, just sit down. So one of the girls scooched over and I sat down and she said, Janet, this Monifah. She comes to my ear, like right here, like because she has to talk to me in my ear. So she's right here and she's like, I love Touch It. And I was like, thank you. Oh my God. Are you kidding me right now? Like, girl, first of all, girl, get away from me. Secondly, I'm like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. I didn't know what to expect. You just don't know. And I'm just like, oh, she's beautiful in person. And that was my Jenny. We chatted for like 2 minutes and I skedaddled out of there. You hear me?
Uh-huh.
I skedaddled out of there.
Janet is so beautiful in person,
She
mainly
is.
because her beautiful aura comes into the room
Yeah.
before she ever steps foot into it. I
No,
can't
see, it does.
explain it.
She's cool. She's cool as hell. Like she's
Um,
a real one. And so now I know, and believe all the stories. Like Michael was a real one. These are these personas. Like they came from the age of the fourth wall, right? Where we like Whitney and Luther, and that there was the time where even with me as an artist, I had the luxury of that fourth wall. Technology was different. You knew what you knew if it was printed or if something got out. But everybody in the world didn't know everything at once. Right?
right,
News
right.
took time to travel, right? So,
Mhm,
and now it's
mhm.
different. But she's just like her. She's so warm. And then I had the pleasure of performing at her surprise party when she was doing a residency in Vegas. And I flew out. Johnny Gill threw a surprise party, and they were keeping me on the side. Like when everybody was in the room. I come in, they had her, they said she was being nosy and they were trying to keep her until a certain point, and she came in there early. But before that, when I was being introduced to her people, like her makeup artists, her dancers, they were like, "Oh my God, she's gonna be," and I'm like, "Oh my God." They were like, "Oh my God, oh my God, she's gonna love this." And I'm like, really like, girl, like she, gets ready to touch, like that's her. So I sing the song and I just go full out. I go full, I'm singing Touch It for Janet privately in front of Tiana Taylor, Sierra, Lil Kim, Johnny Gill, who else was in the building? It was like so many people in the building. I'm just like, I'm just going for it. And I'm like, say my name. We just like, she was humoring. She was Monifah. She was all shy and she was doing this. And I was just like, you don't get to blush. So before I even performed, Erica, she sees me, like I'm coming from her people. She crosses over with the cameras following her. She crosses over and I'm like, oh shit. I was like, there's nothing I could do. They had me. I was like, not my fault. So she was like, oh my, she's like blushing. She's doing this. I was like, you do not get to do that. Absolutely don't get to do that. Are you kidding me right now? And she hugged me and she was just so sweet and blushing. I was like, are you kidding me right now?
How
And
I'm blushing right now.
yo, it was the most amazing. It's just, she's somebody I grew up with. You know what I mean? I grew up with her. She's only a few years older than me. I grew up with her. And there's hands down nothing like meeting somebody that you respect, admire, being warm and being cool and just being a cool person. Because trust me, there's a few people I could have really done without meeting. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I just want to keep it right here. Sometimes it's just better in your head.
I'm picking up what you laying down. Monifah, honestly, I could talk to you all day. I want you to come back and
I would
share
love
some of
to.
these other stories with me before I wrap up for today, because you got to
Okay.
promise me you'll come back in the future.
I, Monifah, promise to come back with Erica, right? Did I say the title right?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay,
You're
do
welcome.
you have new music that you're working on right now that you can share with us other
I have
than
like 8 albums.
Summer Rain?
No, I have 8 albums that I'm like this with, like I'm like holding them like this. No. But no, I'm timing is very important for me. Between me and my creator. And I think alignment for me is very important. I don't want to just throw stuff out there just to see if it sticks. I'm trying to make sure I'm well versed in what's going to make sense for me to be able to thrive and make my living off of the music that I share. I have to make sure it makes sense. I can't just throw it to the wolves, right? And so I don't think I'm overthinking it. I'm just making sure my plan is and everything is as aligned as it can be on the business end, how I put it out, all that stuff. But it's coming. It is coming. It's coming. I know that for true.
Well, it may not be when we want it, which is right now, but it will be here right on time.
On time.
Monifah, thank you so much for your
Thank you, my
time,
love.
energy, for your transparency and your trust in coming on and speaking with us on Come Back with Erica Cobb. And congratulations on the 25th anniversary of your platinum record, Touch It.
Woo!
Tell the story of performing it for Janet Jackson was just everything. And I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, that's so
So
fun.
you already said you're gonna come back. You're gonna share your new music when you do. So we're gonna
Yes, I am.
stay tuned. Is there anything you would like to share with our comeback community before we let you go?
From my heart to yours, you are enough. You're worthy. Live, don't just survive. Live. Mwah.
And Monifah, where can we find and follow you?
Oh, on all three of the main, I guess Facebook, IG, Twitter is TheMonifah. I say the Monifah. People say the. I say the Monifah. People like it should be two E's. No, it's the Monifah.
I could say the Monifah.
Yeah,
One
the
name.
I did it because it's like people and just going, I could be anywhere like the Monifah, like the Monifah, like it's always make me laugh. I made it my handle. I think it's
Yeah,
funny.
it's deep because we're gonna put some respect on your name. Okay. All right, Monifah, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us. We'll come back with Erica Cobb. And to my comeback community, as always, you can get the visuals on YouTube and check out social media where you can follow at the Monifah or follow at Erica Cobb, because I will have some visuals on Instagram, Facebook. You know where to find us at. And also comeback.tv for all the full podcast episodes. Monifah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Erica. It was a pleasure.
It was all mine, sis. I appreciate you.
Thank you, my love.